it's me, Michaela, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be going through all of the books that I read in January. I will, let you know some stats for the month, and then I'll let you know each of the books and give you a bit about them. It is very cold today, so I have my heated blanket and I have some herbal tea. If you'd like, grab yourself a warm beverage and a warm blanket. Why not? Join the club. It's too bad because I'm wearing like a cute little like jumpsuit sweater scenario, but like it's just too cold to not be covered, okay? Like it is freezing. Polar vortex, go away. January. Let me grab my notes. So January was a really good reading month. I mean, like for one, it felt like it was like 7 years long. Like, oh my god, did anybody else feel like January was like way too long of a month? Because I was like, how is it not over yet? But it was a really good reading month. I both read a lot of books and a lot of really good books. So I guess I can't really complain. In January, I did read a total of 11 books. And of these books, I owned 2 of them, and I got 9 of them through loans at libraries. I read 3 of them physically, 8 of them digitally, and 0 audiobooks this month. I had 2 rereads this month and 9 books that were brand new to me. And I had a really amazing average star rating of 4.6 out of 5 for the month. And the average page number for the books I read was 238. Though I do think this is a bit on the high end because I did read a lot of shorter books that were through the library, so they had all of these like free preview of the next book thing, but that's included in the page count of where I got the data of page numbers for books, so that's what we're going with. But I feel like it might actually be even a bit lower than 238 if we're being honest. There are some just overall stats for the month. Let's get into which books I read. So the first book I read was a physical book that I got from the library, and this was when I was still back home for the holidays that I read this. I actually started it at the end of last year, but I didn't finish it until the beginning of January, which is why it's on this reading wrap up. And this book would be Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I did read this book for a reading vlog where I was trying out a new author, so if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts about that, be sure to check it out. But I absolutely love this book. I gave it 5 stars. And in this book, you're kind of placed into this small town, kind of like middle of nowhere, and they're a hockey town. And for the first time in a long time, their junior team has a big chance to win the big tournament. And with that, if they did win, the town would get a lot of benefits from it. So there's a lot of pressure on these children to do really well and win the championship. But then something traumatic happens in the town and it affects everybody. And you're just kind of following many points of views and how this event changes everything for everybody in the town. I really loved it. I found it really emotional. I would say to look up some content warnings because there are some heavy topics in it. However, I think it's a really good read. This is also part of a series, and I'm looking forward to continuing on in the series because I really love Fredrik Backman's writing. We started the year with a 5-star. We are very happy. The next book I read was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This was a reread. I don't have a rating for this right now. I'm also not going to talk about it. Mainly, I'm doing a reread of this series with my sister in order to think and analyze more critically the contents of the book. This is my childhood book. I'm not financially supporting the author. That is all I shall say. Being critical about what I loved in my childhood. We love it. After that, I read another book physically, and this was the one that was new to me. I got this over Christmas from some family, and that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is also the first book in a series. If we know me, we know I Love series. I cannot tell you the last time I read a standalone. Well, I can. It was The Man Called Ua, but, you know, like, hyperbole. I really enjoyed this book. I gave this 4.25 stars. It was really fun to be following these characters because it's not something I normally read. In this book, there's a group of unlikely friends at a retirement village who every Thursday they meet to discuss and try and solve cold cases. And then when there is a death nearby where they are that they feel involved in, they decide that they are the best ones to solve this mystery. So this is really fun. I like the format of it. It's kind of told partially through journal entries and then partially through, you know, just regular narrative story novel writing. That was a sentence. But I thought it was really fun to be reading from these characters who are, you know, like they're in their 80s, a lot of them, their 70s and their 80s, and it's not a point of view that you get very often. A lot of the times you have much younger main characters that you're reading from. So I really enjoyed that. It has so much, you know, it is British, it has a very British humor, and my humor very aligns with British humor, so I found this really funny, really enjoyable, and I'm also excited to continue on with this one. I do own the next one in the series as well, so I'm hoping to get to that one soon. I also might even reread this one before I read the second one, just because I read it really quickly, so I might need to digest it all again to remember, because there's a lot that happens. Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on in this book. But overall, a good time. Sometimes I felt like it was like a bit too much going on, but I'd rather have too much going on than not enough in a book, personally. You might think differently. I like chaos a little bit in my novels. So next I read The Titan's Curse. This is the third book in Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Riordan, and this is my first time actually reading this series, and this is the third book, and I gave this one a 4.5. I found this one really intriguing. We got to have new characters in, so you're following like Percy and Annabeth still, but you also get some new introductions and you get to go on another adventure with them as they try and save the world because everything is ending. We love it. That's like every book. It doesn't make me like any book any less. I find there's a really fun balance between the storyline just in this novel and then also the overarching storyline in the series. I think that it's really well connected without leaving too many cliffhangers, but there's enough intrigue to keep you wanting to read more. I find the writing is quite witty, and it's really fun to just kind of like have a bit of middle grade reading just thrown into the middle of the month. It's really fun. I'm actually reading the fourth book right now, so that will be coming up next month. After this is when I decided that I was going to read the entirety of the Wayward Children series. And by the entirety, I mean 7 of the 8 books, because I read these all digitally through the library, and the 8th book wasn't available because it just came out. So I haven't read that one, but I have read all the other previous books. So I had read Every Heart a Doorway before, so this one was my other reread for the month, but all of the rest of them were brand new to me. I do have a reading vlog where I talk spoiler-free of me reading the whole series, so check that out if you want to hear a bit more detailed thoughts on everything. But I will kind of just talk each book, what I rated it, and maybe just like an overall thing. I don't really want to, I feel like I've talked about them so much like the past week, I can't possibly talk about them more. So I gave Every Heart a Doorway 5 stars in this book. We are following Nancy as she shows up at Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. I don't know why I can't say that. I always want to say Eleanor Westward's Home for Wayward Children. It's not. Her name is just Eleanor West. But she shows up at Eleanor's school, And we learned that at this school is all of these children who have at some point during their childhood found a doorway that they've gone through and found another world. Not the same world, they all find like their own world, and then something happens where they end up back in our world, and upon feeling, you know, lost and confused and wanting to go back, they end up at Eleanor's. And so you're following Nancy as she shows up there, and there's, you know, quite a bit of learning of the fantasy world that goes through. And that's kind of like each book. I would say like this book and then every other book after this is a story that like is the overarching plot line of what's happening at Eleanor's and the children there. And then the books in between, from what I've read, are like background stories of where you follow like an individual character and you go with them through their door and you see what's on the other side. So that's kind of all I'll say for the series, because I don't want to give too many spoilers if you haven't read them all. But Every Heart a Doorway, I gave 5 stars. I really loved it. Down Among the Sticks and Bones was a Through the Door book. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This one had a much more like grim fairy tale narrator like writing style to it that was really fun. It matched the for lack of a better word, vibe of the story. Then there was Beneath the Sugar Sky, which I think I'm going to say Beneath the Sugar Sky was my favorite in this series. It's tough because I do really love Every Heart a Doorway. That first book is really magical. The first book has like a mystery element to it, which is why I really loved Every Heart a Doorway, but I think Beneath the Sugar Sky was my favorite. Maybe just because I had a little bit more of a clue about what's going on. So I gave that one 5 stars. Then In an Absent Dream, this was my least favorite in the series, which I think is a bit uncommon. I feel like this is a really well-loved one by a lot of people, but for me, the character we were following just like wasn't someone I was a huge fan of, so I didn't really have the most fun of a time following them, so I gave this one a 3.75. Still a really well-written book, still a good story. I just didn't care for the characters, so it kind of took away from my enjoyment of it. Then there was Come Tumbling Down, which I also gave 5 stars. And then there's Across the Greengrass Fields, which I gave 4 stars. And then the 7th book, Where the Drowned Girls Go, I gave 5 stars. So as you can maybe see, is that I really loved following the children at Eleanor's a bit more than the Through the Doors stories, because I gave all of those ones 5 stars. So I think Seanan McGuire really has created something really special in this series, and I'm so excited to keep reading them. I'm planning on reading this 8th book like as soon as I can. I just have to wait for the library to get it so I can read it, okay? Like that's holding me back. It's holding me back, and oh my god, it's so much snow out there right now. Oh my god, it's like it's winter or something. Okay, those were the 11 books that I read in January. I'm not expecting to read anywhere near this amount in February, but it was fun to have such a great reading month. And I think, you know, like it was a great start to the year. Hopefully it keeps it up. And I only read books I love, but I feel like that's a bit of a high expectation for the whole year. But there we go. Let me know what your favorite book you read this month was, or just say hi. I'm happy to have you. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, give it a little thumbs up, tappy on that. Oh wait, maybe don't tap it twice because then I'll unlike it. Tap it like an uneven amount of times. And then give me a comment down below. Let me know how many books you read in January. Did you have a really good reading month, a really bad reading month? Were you super pumped, super excited? Were you kind of off to a slow start for the year? I know I've just hit the ground running reading this month. Oh my gosh. But let me know. Let me know your thoughts on any of these books. If you read them, if you want to read them now that I mentioned them, if they're on your radar, if you absolutely hated them. It's okay. You can hate things I love. We can still be friends, which is why if you do think this is a fun time and you like me and you like hanging out, consider subscribing. Stick around for a little bit longer. Why not? Come back again in the future. We can be friends. We can talk about books. Yes. I think with that, that's everything I have to say today. It was really great to be having such a wonderful reading month and to be in such good spirits reading-wise. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!